Well, hello, this is Peter Combs from Bidamount.com and P.O. Combs Asian Art in Gloucester, Massachusetts. And today is Friday, May 28th, 2020. And this is our weekly YouTube video on eBay auctions, CATAWIKI, what's going on over on the Bidamount global auction pages, some auction results and so forth. A lot happened this week. And I want everybody to know, if you haven't seen it yet, check out the video we did on Rob Michael's sale, which ended the day before yesterday. We put together a video on it yesterday. I was home for a day relaxing and did it from there. It was kind of fun. Never done one from there before. But at any rate, give that a look. And we're going to move along now and take a look at here and see what's been going on. If you haven't subscribed to us yet in YouTube, please do and hit the notification bell, and you'll get an update every time we do a video. And visit us over at Bidamount.com when you have a minute. Do some research on things and look around. All right. Let's see. One of the things I wanted to mention was that, where's the tab? There it is. This is Carlo Bonte. Carlo Bonte had a sale that was also in Bruges, like Rob Michael's, the day after his. This sale ended yesterday. It was on the global member pages. Sort of similar types of things. He's a good auctioneer. They have some nice things. It wasn't as large a sale as Rob's, I don't think, but they had some good things, and I suspect the two of them sort of timed it out so that Rob's sale would run on the 26th and 27th, and then this sale would occur on the 28th. Let's see here. How did this sale do? This sale did pretty well. He had some good famille rose pieces and some very good other porcelains and so forth. Let's see. He had this. This was a big archaistic late Qing Hu form vase. It's a famous type. It was very attractive, probably latter 19th century. He just called it late Qing dynasty, which I think is exactly right. And it ended up selling for 10,000 euros, which isn't a huge surprise when you think about the Michael sales yesterday, where they had the Qinlong marked late 19th century moon flask, which brought over $20,000 because these things are coming into demand. They're becoming more and more desirable. And this was a good sized pot too. It was 48 centimeters tall and ended up, which is for the metric impaired, and I'm one of them. It's roughly about what is that? About 18 inches tall, 19 inches, something like that. All right, and about 10,000 euros or around $11,000. And if you go over and check it out, you'll see. And this is the results from the Rob Michael sale. You can always go to his website or go to Live Auctioneers and check his post-auction results, as you can with any Live on Auctioneers page. And all that. This was something that was in Carlo's sale, and I wanted to bring it up. This was a massive Japanese Amari 5-piece garniture set, 18th century set. This was an absolutely beautiful set of Amari pieces, and these things were huge, and I think somebody got a steal on them. They paid 6,500 euros for them, in a $3,000 to $5,000 estimate. They were 90. The biggest pieces were 93 centimeters tall. In other words, these big jars, these tall jars, were 3 feet tall. And whoever got these, bravo. Probably expensive to ship, but boy, what a great deal. I think these are fabulous. And I got a number of inquiries on these, as I mentioned, through the preview assistant thing on Bidamount, the inquiry forms. And I found sets of these that brought up to 20,000 pounds. All right, and I told one person, if you can get them for under $10,000 or $11,000, you're doing great. These went way under it, and I don't know why. I don't think they were particularly heavily restored or anything. I just think it's maybe people didn't realize how huge these are, because they were made in the same general shape and scale, but much general shape and size proportions, but often much smaller. Some of these sets are only 12 inches tall. These things were 3 feet tall, which makes them highly unusual, and I think somebody got an absolutely fabulous buy. All right, and then on to this. This was a nifty rose Mandarin jar that was at Carlo Bonte's auction. It was 24 inches tall, 25 inches tall, and it was one of these big pots. There was a situation over in Europe years ago, in the 19th century, when these were made around 1840, and when they got to Europe, they were often converted into ironclad tea caddies with these big locks and hinges added to them, and it's quite an effect. It's very dramatic. That was done in Europe. People often wonder, was that done in China or was that done in Europe? This was done in China. I mean, done in Europe, rather. And they did it, and they stored tea in it. And if you could afford tea in that quantity during the 19th century, it was a sign of wealth. because tea was very, very expensive and generally went into little boxes with padlocks on them. And this is a massive 2-foot tall jar that was intended to hold tea for probably a very wealthy person. All right, and now let's mosey on over here and see what happened. There's the rest of Bonte's sale. I just had it up so I could click out some images for everybody. Let's see what happened over on eBay last week. This was the eBay and CATAWIKI newsletter page. It's a sort of a weekly catalog that we do of things that we find on eBay and CATAWIKI that we think are worth looking into and buying. And we've had some pretty good results this week. Some nice things turned up. One of them was this very nice Ben Krongware black ground with soft enamels and nice colors bowl. It was a very pretty one, and in the end it did fine. It brought right in the line where they often do. It had minor nicks on the rim apparently and that kind of thing, but brought $610. Which is sort of in the range that these always bring. If they have really unusual coloring, they can bring more. But the typical range for these in a 6-inch wide bowl, or I don't know how wide this one was. Typically they're about 6 inches or so, 17 centimeters. Yeah, 6.5 inches wide. They bring in the $500 to $700 range pretty comfortably almost every single time. All right, and then on to this was that framed Kesi panel. This was a nice one. It was unfortunate they had to film it at this angle, but this was a nice 19th century Kesi of immortals greeting an ascending crane here, and you have them here on a rocky ledge, and then you have these wavy patterns, sort of clouds by a house that implies that they were on a high mountaintop in the artwork. But it was a good-looking piece, and it sold for $898. Had 38 bids. I think that was a pretty good buy. This was a nice old example, and I think it sort of hurt him that he didn't get a better head-on shot of the object. But if you bothered to look at the details, the work was quite good all the way through, and it appeared to be in rather nice condition. So I think that was a good buy for someone. That was very pretty. And then there was this, the big 4-panel set of Keseys. These are late 19th century examples. Sometimes people date these as 18th century. They're not. These are all done in the 19th century in this style with these colors. Very attractive. Here's a detail of it. Here's the, with the pine tree in the background and the immortals. It looks like maybe a general or somebody talking to someone. There's always a story to go with these. You just have to take the time to look them up. And the 4 panels ended up bringing $1,550, which is right about right for this. It might have been even a little bit low because these single panels can sometimes bring $400 or $500 each, but it's still in the range, and it's a nice looking set, and they look to be in good condition. Often these Keseys get stained and whatnot from being put in drawers, and things happen to them and they get stained up. So that was a good set. And then on to this was this late Ming period bronze with its bronze stand. This is something that people often easily miss, but there's the bottom of it. This thing looks like it maybe had been in a rather disastrously dirty place for a long time, but this looked to me like to be a nice late Ming bronze, maybe early Qing, but more because it has sort of a rounded foot here, maybe early Qing, but still a nice example. It needs to be oiled up a little, not polished, just cleaned with a wet rag and then oiled a little bit to get some of the color back in and get some of the dirt and the non-patinated filth off of it. And I think this would look very nice. And it ended up doing very well. It brought $3,200. You don't often see these bronzes with bronze bases. Okay, they just don't turn up very often. Years ago, we had one that came through our hands here from a local auction, and it was a gilt splashed example, and the incense burner was 14 inches in diameter. It was a beast, and it still had the bronze base to it, but the auction house, for some reason, the auctioneer didn't know what the bronze base was for, so he sold it in a box lot. Off later in the sale. So I bought the bronze when he put it up, the vessel, and then had to wait till the end to buy the box lot to get the base for it. And I think I paid $5 to get the base. It was a heck of a thing. For some reason, they never figured out that the two went together. I don't know why. It may have been the box lot turned up late for the sale out of a barn or something. It was a estate auction on site. Anyway, we move along to this. This was the pink ground brush washer with precious objects on it. Nice example, 19th century Qing piece. Here it is, very, very pretty. He called it a brush. I think it's more of a brush washer. It's splitting hairs, but it's got all the Buddhist symbols on it, Buddhist emblems and whatnot. And it did well. It brought $611, but it was a very attractive, nice little scholar's piece. Very good looking. And then onto this was that big famille rose 19th century planter. I think they called it a jardiniere or something, but it's a planter. It was about a foot by a foot, 12 inches by 13 by 13 inches, something like that. It looked fabulous with flowers in it. It was nicely, with plants in it. It was nicely decorated. Here's this. Here's the interior. It obviously had plants in it at some point because there's a lot of iron deposit from dirt in there. And it ended up doing quite well. It brought $1,857. And I hope, if one of you bought this and you put a plant in it, send me a picture. I want to see how it looks. All right, but these things should always get a plant when you buy one. All right, and then on to this. I'm pointing these out because if you're a dealer or you tend to poke around and hit oddball antique shops and whatnot, every once in a while you come to like a beer flat they've got in the back that has old Chinese stands on it, and sometimes you can buy them for $5 or $10 from the dealer. All right, and this is sort of a the kind of thing. This is a 20th century stand here on the right, and then you have this little stand that was meant to hold either a small jade or a small bronze or soapstone carving, and it was cut to fit it. So it's not that useful unless you have something that just comes very close to fitting in it. But this little stand here was quite nice. This was a sort of a mid-late 19th century Qing stand, nicely carved, very dirty. And this little stand with a slight amount of just water, wiping it down, and a little lemon oil or something, cleaning it up a little bit, would be spectacularly attractive. And these stands can be bought if you look around and hit oddball shops. If you see them, always check them out, because these three, and the money was all for this one here. The other two aren't worth much, but that ended up selling for $184. And like I said, if you're looking to make a little money as a dealer, you buy those old stands if they're carved like that and have raised bases and are in good shape, because there are always collectors out there for them. And just be sure to list them when you sell them on eBay or Etsy or wherever you sell, to give the inside diameter of the where the vase would fit into it, or the vessel or the bowl, and people will buy them. But if you leave that dimension out, nobody will touch it because they don't know if their piece will fit it. All right, and then on to this, the Kangxi Dragon Bowl. This was a very pretty bowl. I liked it. It was up to about $2,300 or $400 by the time we got it into the newsletter last week. And in the end, it did pretty well. It jumped up a bit more at the end. It sold on the 24th and sold for $2,950, which I think was fine. I thought it might bring a little more, maybe $3,500, but it sold in the in that range generally. It was a nice looking thing. All right, now mosey on over to this. This was terrific. This was the Netsuke, and I hope some of you took the time to look at it, because it's a Dutch trader. This is not a Chinese figure, obviously. It's a Dutch trader, and he's holding a cockerel or a chicken or something. And it's just very fun, very typical of some of the Japanese work that was done because of the Dutch traders' involvement in Japan and all that. And but it had a nice surface on it, nice patina. Here's a good shot of the cockerel. The bird was beautifully done. There's the face of the Dutch trader with these curly whiskers and so forth, and nice patina. And it looked to be in very nice shape, and people seemed to like it. Brought $689, which I think was a great buy. That was a nifty item. It was worth looking at. It's worth owning, because it's always interesting. It's always interesting to hold it in your hand, especially when you think of the influence that the Dutch had on Japan during their history of trade. Very interesting stuff. And then over here, coming up, closing on CATAWIKI, it'll be on the newsletter page this coming week, is this. This is a Kosumitsuki Ming Dynasty dish. It's a very famous scene. It's on many of these pieces that were meant for the Japanese market. Beautifully done. It's up to 90 euros, and that's it. And I've seen these sell, they can sell for $700, $800, $900, $1,000. So you might want to look at that. And that was the wrong lot. Hold on a minute. There we are. This closes on Sunday. Is this nice 18th, possibly early 19th century, but I think it's probably 18th century, a bronze hue-form vase. Nice example. It's only up to about $259. It's got a ways to go, but a good-looking pot. And it should bring $1,000, $1,500, I would suspect. And then on to this. This is arts on sunlink.net. Mark Wahlberg. He's a very good dealer. He's not the actor, but this is a very nice late Ming pricket stick with a figure on it. And if you pull in the figure, you can see that the back of it is nicely done. It's got a good old surface on it. It hasn't been messed with. Let's see. Here's the face. Good facial characteristics. The eyes are nicely done, and so on and so forth. It looks like a European trader on that. And it's only up to $110. Okay, this is something. If you're a bronze bronze collector, you want to check this out because this thing was pretty good size. What was it? It was a foot tall. This isn't small. This isn't like a little tabletop thing. It's a foot tall. It's a Ming pricket stick, and it's only up to $110. All right, that is a good bronze, and if you really like it, don't be afraid to throw 12 or 1,500 bucks on it. All right, and then over to this. This is the same seller. I mentioned this last week just because I loved it. It was this terrific little lacquer cricket cage, beautifully done with the Fu Lion on top. This closes in a couple of days. If you've forgotten about it, here's some images going around it. All right, here's the little door that opens and closes right here. This goes up and down. You can see that there's a handle on it that lifts and lowers it right here. You lift that up and it opens the cricket cage, and this cricket has a rather nice little house for himself. At any rate, that has only up to $168. It should bring, you know, 400 to 600 somewhere in there. I would think it's a beautiful little object and an interesting object. All right, and then over here, there's this clobbered dish. This is closing on, looks like Sunday. It's a big clobbered, in other words, the clobberware were porcelains that were shipped from China, and when they got to Europe, they would add additional colors and embellish them further to add colors. So they would take a plain blue and white dish and add all of this and the gilding and the lotus blossoms and all this other business to it. And there's a whole collector category unto itself. This one's up to $455. These are all no reserve items, as we've been pushing more and more on the CATAWIKI side to give people a shooting shot at getting a bargain if they can. And we'll see how that does. That closes, as I said, on Sunday. And then this is just sort of a nifty little Chinese export 18th century creamer. It's a European form more typically. It's missing its finial, but you can actually get that fixed and put back on there. But at any rate, it's only up to, it closed. Oh, what did it close for? Oh, it closed for $86. Well, that just closed today. Okay. All right. That was a steal. All right. I was hoping to get this on here before it sold. But at any rate, 86 bucks for that was a great buy if you like sweet little Chinese export pieces of the 18th century. All righty. And that's about it. It was sort of a quiet week. There's a bunch of stuff coming up over on eBay this week, and I suspect, from what I'm hearing, there's going to be a bunch of new things showing up on the global member pages because Live Auctioneers has got some stuff coming in, as does Invaluable, and BidSquare I think will be too. BidSquare doesn't get quite as much stuff as Live Auctioneers, obviously, because they have a smaller, slightly more select group of dealers that they work with, but we'll see. All righty. Listen, everybody have a great weekend. It is beautiful here today. It's 90 degrees. I'm going to scamper out of here as quickly as I can, and I hope you all get home early too. Just take care of your loved ones, and this thing with the virus shutdown and all that seems to be coming to an end, thankfully, and aren't we all glad of that? Sick of hearing about it, but it's got to be dealt with. All right. Have a wonderful weekend. We'll see you next week, and bye-bye.